Here we are live. Okay, so in this video, I have a lovely guest with me who I will introduce shortly. We are looking at the symbolism and mythology of dreams with the lens of astrology and some tarot and psychotherapy and things all mixed in there. So I am Emily Kalcher. I'm an astrologer, intuitive tarot card reader, and I will introduce my guest.
Hello there.
Hello, Richard. Let me find your bio. Okay.
Just to say, we met at the LSA, probably on one of my lectures or something, and we had a little communication, and I was very much enjoying how you were linking the tarot cards in with astrological symbolism, because when you hit the realm of symbolism, they have their speciality, their special form of images, but symbolism takes you into the same kind of terrain, the psychic terrain, the terrain of images and emotions, and eventually to meaning.
Yes, it certainly does, Richard. Yeah. So for people who don't know Richard, he is a phenomenal psychotherapist and professional astrologer who, as he said, he's taught me within my classes at London School of Astrology, along with Frank Clifford and some other lovely people. So would you mind, Richard, starting us off with your sun, moon and rising, if that's okay with you?
Yes, I'm one of those sentimental Cancerians. I think we ought to say that the astrological factors of sun, moon, and ascendant are very important in a chart, very important. And they show energies that come through a particular planet, and that planet represents some kind of center of force or principle or a need in us psychologically. So when planets are there, they represent certain kind of needs. And then when they're placed in a sign, the sign is used to express that need. Signs are very complicated. They have processes and developments in them and all kinds of associations. So when we're talking about astrology as an aspect of the personality, right, they come out as character traits, but not all Cancerians will be sentimentalist people that like cream cakes and teas in the afternoon, you know, or that kind of comfort Cancerian in their shell home with their family and the familiar, and you know, they don't want to do much, a tendency for emotional security, you know, can you know, all of that. So all of that was given by Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, actually back in 1972. It's still a valid book, but I just wanted to say that the signs permeate us. Sometimes we give form to them, let's say in our profession or our vocation. Sometimes it might be a kind of affected behavior. You know, Leos like large gestures, Aries like pointing at people, and you know, they get angry when they're in crowds, you know, because it's this feistiness that moves forward, you know. Virgos, you know, when they come across something, a meal they don't know, you can see them picking out things. What's this on the plate? I haven't eaten this before. It's a kind of, do you see what I mean? So
Yes.
We can translate the signs into characterisms, and that can be fun. It's entertaining. So I'm a Cancerian, and what that essentially means at the heart of me is that I aim to provide an arena in which people's vulnerabilities can grow into, through their vulnerability, through their kind of childhood, their emotional states, into something, because Leo follows Cancer. And if you think about it in the sign, so Cancer is kind of the sign of the mother, the nurturer, the teacher, the person that provides a safe space in some way. And then Leo is the sign of the individual, the actual child with creative talent. Virgo is the theoretically fully mature adult, but they're ever for trying to think there's something wrong, and they're repairing the body, and you know, they have special kind of soaps, and interests in homeopathy and all of those kind of things, getting things in order. So that's the heart of my sun, and I give form to it in some senses that I'm a professional psychotherapist, I'm a helper, but I was a musician for a long while. Then my moon is in Aquarius, giving me an emotional sense of picking up on the more human elements of people. So it's an air sign, and so I would say that it moves in and out of understanding people's emotions. Some people might say it's rather cold, but I wouldn't say. I think the best of Aquarius is objectivity. That you can have a feeling, but that feeling is common to all humanity. If I'm feeling tired, or if I'm feeling down or depressed, loads of other people do it. So Aquarius has this idea that you can understand and move through feeling. I've spent most of my life in many ways trying to understand and reinterpret people's feelings and so on. So that fits in with my sun rather nicely. Darby Costello used to say there are 12 different types of Cancerian, depending on where the moon is, because the moon rules Cancer. Okay, and my ascending sign is Virgo, and where the ascendant is, it's our first foot forward. The symbolism of the ascendant is that you are born. It's how we birth ourselves. It's that moment of birth, and it's important that the ascendant goes from a closed environment of the womb into an open environment of the world. So it ceases to become a fish. It ceases to, be solely dependent on the mother and starts an independent existence. So the ascendant symbolism is about how we birth ourselves, how we present ourselves. In older astrology, you could tell sometimes what a person would wear, how they would give of themselves. It's the lens through which we see life. And so it's that which helps us move forward, a kind of personality which is informed by the sign's qualities and principles, but it isn't an essential need. It's just that way we go through life, our outlook. Okay, so there it is. I am sun in Cancer, moon in Aquarius, and Virgo ascendant. Sorry, I tend to go on a bit, but I just wanted to explain some of the things underneath.
No, anybody who's met you, Richard, knows that we love your stories and your interpretation and bringing us back to the present with all of the mythology and symbolism behind it. So yes, I'm very grateful. Yeah, so the preciseness and the methodology of showing up as you are, we love that, Richard. Thank you. And obviously, your Cancerian way of taking care of people is always present in the way you come through.
That's nice to see that you see that. It's nice. I like that, because I was confused with being a Virgo for many years. Some people identify a bit too much with their ascendant. So methodical, neat, analytical, practical, or you're Virgo, right? So, you're providing information which could be useful. It's not just a head number. It needs to be, your guidance is useful in life. What can you do with the images? All of that. And then I think we grow into our sun sign a bit more because it's the heart of us.
Yes.
I used to describe a horoscope as a cake with candles on it, right? And all those candles are the planets, and they're in different positions and so on. But the central candle is the sun, and it's the one which kind of is there. So it's there illuminating all the rest. And we know from our symbolism of the solar system, everything revolves around the sun. It gives life to the rest. If we're not doing our sun sign, if we wandered off into a different part of the chart, we can lose a sense of ourselves. We can lose the thread. What's the central meaning? This is why moon in Cancer, sun in Cancer won't be so adventurous as a Sagittarius. because they'll need something to come home to.
Yes.
They'll need some security. I used to, I don't know, I used to put pound notes. I was a ballet pianist. That's how I earned my money when I was younger. I played for ballet schools, and I used to save my money by putting them into the back of books. And then I put those on a shelf, and I'd forget them. And then one day I would come back. It was my nest of financial security. Cancerians, it's really about emotional security, but it's like if they've got enough money, so you always have a little stash somewhere in some cupboard that's kind of, I can rely on that. So they're not so adventurous. If they're going anywhere, they need somewhere to go. On the open road, fine, but not so easy. Not so easy for a Cancerian. They need to have a kind of set path. They need to know where their meals are coming from, and or that comfort.
Yes. My Venus in Cancer recognizes this. A place to store the delightful things that we rely upon, and yes. Even my Taurus rising appreciates the creature comforts and the beauty of things. But yeah, getting at things through the body work, but also the need to still speak and be heard and all that with the Gemini. With my moon and Capricorn conjunct Mars, it's kind of right. We need to be still methodical, show up on time, and actually deliver the goods.
Yes. And there's something important about that principle. That's what Virgos do. They represent. No, it's not that other people can't turn up on time, but for Virgo, it is the principle of order.
Yeah.
And that everything has its place. And then when everything is in its place, it creates a pattern. And that pattern you can see as a whole and is secure. So Virgo is the sign of individuation. In other words, it differentiates the different parts, and it processes in the pattern, which is why it's linked to often needlework or crafts or doing something with the hands, tools, manufacturing, skills, but particularly with plants and a love of animals and all of that nature stuff. Do you see? So that's how we start to build up some of the characteristics out of the signs. When you know them and what they're about, you no need to remember all the books. You just work with the core foundation of the imagery, which is what you're doing in tarot, which is what we're doing in astrology. But how to get that core? Well, a lot of work, a lot of study, a lot of experience, seeing how the symbolism manifests in life. Frank Clifford has done an amazing amount of work on how the symbolism manifests as humor, how the symbolism manifests in a person's speech patterns, what they say. His British entertainers, that's what turned me on to Frank Clifford's work. He can literally see the sign speaking the words, and we know it's fascinating. So how a person expresses these symbolisms is very much an individual concern, which is why you can generalize at the first, and then you have a reading or you have a session, and then you can see how that person, how in touch they are with their planetary signs, or how out of touch they are.
Yes, definitely.
Cancer can go very bad if it doesn't get its a daily dose of affection, right? That it needs, because it needs to feel safe, emotionally safe. What does it do? Well, it gets very moody, and it gets very self-pitying. And then the person goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I neglected you today." And they go, "Don't you touch me?" It's like, it can start. Every sign, by the way, has its shadow side, and its constructive side. Virgo can nitpick, become very critical. Imagine somebody going around, somebody set places for a table, right? And and a knife or fork is out of place. Do you see what I mean? Saturn in Virgo can do that. Control through order. So it's not that the astrology shows what you're going to do with your astrology. A bad person, an immoral person, is going to do the worst of the signs. A reasonably balanced person with an interest in life and perhaps helping others and helping themselves is going to bring out some of the creative and positive potentials of the sign. Astrology never says which way it's going to go. It just provides us with the core substance.
Yes.
So there's another line of development, spiritual, psychological development, maturity, which needs to go along with it. Otherwise, you're just acting out perhaps from repressions or traumas or anxieties and so on. So it's part of the astrologer's job to see how these things, this stuff is being expressed in a person's psychology and in their life.
Yes, definitely. So I know we love to talk about lots of different things, Richard, and we could talk for hours, but shall we bring ourselves back to some structure with some things that we prepared?
I think so, yes.
In your earlier life, you lovely touched upon how you were a jazz pianist, and that actually you'd said that you'd done that for ballet schools and things. So do you feel that some of the Neptune and moon placements and things like that were part of how you sort of lost yourself in the music side and the dream space and things like that?
Yeah, technically, I think it's Venus square Uranus. Okay. Uranus is an energy force which breaks down the set order, the set structure. Virgo doesn't like it. Taurus doesn't like it. And with Venus square that's why I was an improviser, so that you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we've set up, right? I've made notes, and all that, and it's beautiful order. And I suggested you get an order you have, and we're sticking to it. But then there's this Neptune getting lost in the symbolism,
of course,
and then the surprise of Uranus, And so, yes, I did. And I was a composer and a jazz pianist for many years. But underneath that, that expressed certain of my inner sounds that I had. But there was more. There was always more underneath. I was always very interested in magical things. My hero was Dr. Strange when I was age 5, reading the magazines, and I used to believe it. Age 5, 6, I couldn't wait to read my next Dr. Strange. How he projected his astral body and went to Tibet, and all of those things. And that as a child that character fascinated me, and I kind of followed it. And so I was very interested in hypnotism and the doors of perception. All kinds of things, way above my pay grade when I was 11, but I was in there reading books about mysticism and Tibetan stuff, and all of those images, the colors and the robes and the magic and the incense. They always used to draw me in. And I think that's a very Neptunian thing. That you can know things by your feeling reaction to them. It's very Cancerian.
Yes, I was just thinking that actually Neptune and Mercury could be both responsible for language as well. It's not just the typical, we think of Mercury for the communication, but Neptune also gives that language with the perception that we were talking about there. I quite like that.
Yes. Well, there's a strange business when you relate with somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, Mercury, as we know, is god of language, god of communication. It's the god of thought in the Egyptian, who is the god of the scribe, Ani, also, and language. Yes, to communicate what is in our mind, in our experience, down through the written word. Very, very important. But when you speak a word to me, and when I speak a word to you, it comes out my mouth somewhere in here, and then it goes into your ear, and it goes into your mind. So whose is it? Where is it? It doesn't have any boundaries. So it comes, it apparently comes from me, but how are we speaking? What's what force is behind that? So when you get the Neptune combined with it, it's as if there's a blending. Neptune is the dissolver of boundaries. So very often Mercury Neptune has an interest in symbolism, in imagery, in the effect of words to evoke feelings, poetry, painting, impressionism, photography, those kind of things that you can start to see blend image and word, understanding and music. See, so or tarot. Sometimes people are quite psychic. They say they're psychic. It's a particular form of psychism which feels something from a client, and before you know it, something inside you has some mechanism has told you what that feeling means. See, so you feel, you pick it up, and then Mercury gives it a voice. So it's quite mediumistic. And that's what we're doing with our images. That's what you're doing with your tarot. Now, Mercury has a lot to do, a lot of reading to do. What has other people said about this imagery? And that in the end, it's you and the image. Got me?
Yes, definitely. I love it. So let's touch upon psychotherapy. So my understanding is that it's a system that helps people with mental health issues, finding clarity and effective coping strategies to deal with life's challenges. What would you add as a working definition, or elaborate however you feel?
No, but that's a very Virgoan description. It's a system, it helps people, it's all that, right? And that's true. There is a medical dimension of psychotherapy which came out of the medical tradition. Behaviorism is the fact that you learned to do something or think in a certain way when you were younger, and it's no longer a good thing to think that way or to behave that way, so let's change it. Very Virgoan, isn't it? Well, you got a problem, change your behavior.
Yeah.
I'm always saying to people, well, not always, but get a better vocabulary. If you want to express your inner feelings, your inner life, your ideas, you need a vocabulary to do so. So Mercury, it's coming a lot in our discussions, interesting now. So that's one area, the practical dimensions of knowledge applied to a person to help them. Person has panic attacks. There's a certain set procedure in which you work through that, and so on, and then the person goes away. So there's nothing. So in other words, therapy centers around that healing potential. You have a depression, you have some anxiety, you work with it. So it's symptom reduction.
Sure.
And good. Lots of cognitive therapists out there, lots of behavioral therapists. But then there's another dimension, which is to do with what James Hillman, famous Jungian, might call the soul. Jung came across people that were perfectly okay in the world. They got their career, they're doing things, but they'd still lost faith. They'd lost meaning. What do you do with that? You see, so Jung found in depth psychology that there was something trying to become born in us, some innate potential you might call the soul. Maslow called it self-actualization. Jung called it individuation. That there's a path of your own evolution, and this can be helped particularly by astrology and tarot. Tarot readings somehow place you in a, give you something to swim in, to work with. The same as dreams, of course, which I think are part of the same whole business of working with images and symbols. So there's that. There's transpersonal psychotherapy, which uses meditative techniques. Humanistic, which is very much involved in dealing with other people. Some people might need more self-assertion. How do you assert yourself without being too aggressive? How do you become more confident? So it uses the medium of the relationship in the therapist-client interaction. That's the difference between it just being clinical and somehow it being more human, and it provides a space in which virtually anything can be explored, anything at a certain level. See what I mean?
Yes.
So and some people I've seen in their even midlife, they haven't had any opportunity to be heard at all. They've been involved in bringing up children and doing things and might be perfectly satisfied with that. Their relationships, some people have disturbances in sexuality and emotions and all that. That's all part and parcel of the work. But the meaning in life has gone. And if you don't have any meaning, then your life is dull and you need to fill it with pleasure. Nothing wrong with that. Or like a bit of that, whatever pleasure it is. Music, romance, films, going on holidays, right? I play poker.
Oh,
Yeah,
I never thought of that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's my Uranus again. It's quite exciting. You see, there's the Venus, there's the money, and there's the Uranus. You never know what's going to come in any hand, you see. Any two cards can win, you know, all of that. Anyway, so you need that form of pleasure. There's nothing wrong with that. Venus is important to us. But it can't replace meaning, which is more religious or spiritual oriented. And so there is a place in which that can be explored too. So it's not just clinical. Then you get depth psychotherapy, which is a long-term involvement with the therapist. And you go through different phases of your childhood. People come in, they expect you to be their father, they expect you to be their mother, they expect you to be their confidant, their mentor, their guru. So they project all kinds of things onto the therapist. And it's their task to work with that without becoming that. See? Yeah. So therapy is quite a highly evolved, we've had about 120 years of it, and it's still evolving. I could go on ad infinitum with all that, but yeah, from clinical to psychological to soul.
Yes. You could probably gather that I'm more into the soul piece, although I respect that everything makes up who we are, and the different variety of, there's a spice of life, I guess. But
yes. And this is what, again, Jung, famous psychologist C.G. Jung, found that our problems that we encounter, yes, they're partly in the collective. People are born into poverty. There's all that we have to get over if we can. But once people's problems and working on them become the very tools, become the very thing that the person then shows them there's a deeper aspect to life. If the person didn't have problems, the person would have a big problem.
Yes. Ironic, actually.
Yeah, it's ironic. So you know, we dream of more money, we dream of all this. Yeah, that would be nice. None of this is wrong. But as I say, if you go to France, it's you that's still in France. If you know, you can have a variety of different lovers, different things, different entertainments, different philosophies, but unless you get involved with the development in some way, and I'd like to come back to that, how people might become involved in this deeper work. There's about five different ways, I think. Then your life is being lived at the surface, and the surface it changes. It's like a television advert. There's always another one that you don't want to watch.
Yes.
You a new variety of chocolate, a new soap opera, a new thing, and then a new advert. If you're like me, I always turn them off. I can't stand it.
That's partially, I think, why my husband and I stick to Netflix and Prime, although they've slowly been creeping adverts into those as well. Like, no, stop it.
And then, of course, you can pay more, so you don't have the adverts. So we don't, yeah. And of course, adverts aren't wrong. They've been the mainstay of television channels, Americans. So I'm not saying these things are wrong, but I'm talking about the myriad of constant images in front of you, which can hypnotize you. And so therefore you don't concentrate on the inner self. It's like that with Audible. Audible's a great thing. People buy it, they put it in their cars. I was there at the beginning of Audible, interesting enough, and with Amazon. But actually reading a book is an active involvement with it. You can stop, you can pause. There's a difference between surface reading and taking in, and actively thinking about what you're doing. See what I mean? And so I have a tendency to read rather than listen. Although when I'm washing up, I'll listen to a lecture by Ram Dass or Jung or Mary Louise von Franz or Murray Stein and that's how I get my politics too. It comes through there, the many different kind of setups we have. That's great. So again, I'm not saying these things are wrong, but too much. You're not actively involved in your own development, in your own thoughts. That's when neurosis comes along. That's when the creeping depression comes in. You don't know what it's for. And really, it's a signal saying there's something wrong here. Or person has an unfortunate accident, or they may have an illness. And this is where we get into depth psychotherapy, is it may have a purpose. Not all of them do, but it may have. It may be saying you're not living your life. You're not living it. So you're moving through it, but you're not engaged in it in any soulful way. To see, so symptoms in this sense can be symptoms, psychotherapy, anxiety, strange things, an affair you're having. Something comes along to disturb. It's very Uranian. To disturb your sameness, because the sameness is sterility, and sterility is an unaliveness. It's dead.
Yes.
Can't be?
Yes.
So psychotherapy covers quite a lot in that sense.
So what was the transition like? So you were a jazz pianist, and did it go from that point to the psychotherapy, or did the psychotherapy come alongside astrology? How did you get into all the things that you so graciously give us?
That is a long-winded biographical story, which could be interesting, but I'll probably leave it for my memoirs if I ever get around to writing them. I think as a boy, my interests were my own, and school was something I had to put up with. I was in the library. I was doing this. I joined a group of what they called Norman Empire's Happy Volunteers, and we went round entertaining people, like old people's homes and hospitals and mental wards, locked wards. And I used to do a little magic act and then play the piano and support the comedian, and so I was very much involved in my own little world, and most of the time I was up in my library reading the adult books. There was a psychology section, and then there was an anthropological section. So I used to read that kind of thing. And age 12, I was in there so much, they gave me 5 adult tickets, even though I was a 12. So I could take the books home. Anyway, I was always there. And then at ages 16, 17, I met an astrologer. I was doing a show in Bristol, actually, which is where I now live. and he saw me, and his wife was a Catholic nun turned astrologer, turned homeopath, and he was a member of the Theosophical Society, which started off the Astrological Society in 1915 with Alan Leo, and he taught me astrology. So it's as if this whole idea that if you follow your own thing, you start to meet people. Now, it's all very, woo woo, they say that it's actually true. The people that I've met have been highly unusual. And he was a very highly unusual man, but he had access to a complete library of books on astrology and magic and the Western mystery tradition and all of that I've been seeking with Dr. Strange. Now it was real, because this man was a magician, a real one, and an astrologer. So he taught me astrology. He used to send me books and say, read these, and he'd send me 2 books, and then he'd send them back at the end of the month, and then he'd send me some more. And this was when I was 16, 17. So I had an interest in the occult, but those hidden things behind the appearances of life. Very Neptunian, I think. Yeah, so then I went from there, and I went to college and studied as a musician, Leeds, jazz pianist, but I was always interested in astrology and mental training, and I was interested in concentration and all the things from those yoga textbooks they tell you how to do, concentrate on an object for 10 minutes. Very difficult to do. How to visualize, I was very interested in all those kind of things. But really what took me into therapy proper was when I studied with Liz Green and Howard Susportas at their school, the Center for Psychological Astrology, between 1985 and 1988. She was a Jungian analyst. A lot of her staff were psychotherapists, and I met my analyst at one of those meetings, and then I had analysis with her for over 12 years. And it was that took me in. And then 94, I decided I'm going to shift from music to psychotherapy. So I had a long training right the way up to 2002 from 94. And then I stopped professional playing. So there's a potted history. There's lots of stories in between, the same as there are in anybody's life.
Of course. Yeah. There's just so many surprises within your life. I love it.
And I was giving lectures all over England. At those days, the astrology groups were small little groups, Broadstairs, various London groups, Coventry group, the D-side group, Scotland. They were all over the country, little groups. Woking, I did, so I went round to those. There wasn't any money in it. They gave you expenses and things, but I was interested in lecturing, and I studied a lot and talking. I found that lecturing enabled me to know what I did know and what I didn't. And by the way, when I went to see Liz Green, the Jungian analyst, and also she's a great historian, I realized how much I didn't know. It's total shock. All the planets, they're named after Greek gods or Roman gods, aren't they? Venus, Mars, Roman god of war, Jupiter, Zeus, the king of the gods, or Jupiter, Optimus Maximus, Mercury, the winged god. Was it Mercury or was it Hermes? And I was thinking, my goodness, I've been studying astrology all these years, and I don't even know the basic myths.
Yeah.
All of the signs have their constellational equivalents, and all of those were put there in the sky to various myths. So these mythological patterns, the masses of what they contained in a single image Sagittarius, the double-bodied sign, or Capricorn is a goat fish. And I'd learnt about them, but I hadn't gone into them. And Liz, soon as she opened her mouth, I knew, oh my goodness, is another 8 years worth. I didn't know what I thought I knew, see. So I was privileged to see her and Howard to support us every week. And that was at the forefront of humanistic and psychological astrology, which arose in the 1970s. Before that, it was mostly fatalistic. And it was through that I learned to use the astrology as a method to help psychic development, contemplation, transits, working with what is coming up in you. And then the two started to blend quite strongly.
So mythology was the kind of key piece that kind of opened up that portal to blend your knowledge and your childhood wishes and everything put together, it seems.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so obvious, isn't it?
Looking back, yeah.
There's a mythology to Virgo with Astrea, who found life so impure that she had to then disappear up into the constellations. Astrea, see, something to do with purifying life, so that it's purely itself. You see, and the idea that Aries is the beginning of life. It doesn't have a body. It's just life. It's the thrust in life. So Aries always need this kind of kick to get up in the morning, and if they don't, they'll knock their feet on the toilet door on the way down and hurt themselves, just so they it's a very strange thing how these patterns work. Taurus, you get a body. Gemini, you get a mind. Cancer, you get an environment in which you are developing, a family. Leo, I have creativity, I have my own thoughts, I can play, I can do all things. Virgo is that sign which puts all of those things together. So it is the fully right wheat. Aries is it, Taurus is planting, Gemini starts to develop roots and grows. Yeah, Cancer, it's in the soil. Leo, you start to see, it's a mulberry bush, or it's a daffodil, it's a wheat, it's a piece of wheat. See, Leo starts to define it. Virgo, the fully ripe seed. See how the agricultural symbolism there works through the process of the signs. So you get I'm going off a bit, but all of those have mythological elements. Taurus, the bull; Gemini, the twins, Castor and Pollux; Romulus and Remus; Cancer, the great mother; Leo, the lion. Well, lions have such a lot of mythology connected to them. See, so every one of those is like a window, a doorway onto ancient knowledge and patterns, what's called ancient wisdom. And you if you go through that, it's a never-ending series of work. Now, what you're doing when you're doing that is you are moving through the image in order to explore it, and then it becomes part of yourself, and then you can give readings.
Yes.
That's what Liz Green showed me. I didn't know a thing, and I'd been studying astrology about 8 years. And that's what I try. The essential part of my teaching is to try and encourage people to really explore the depth of the symbolism that they are contemplating. And if you've got 12 signs, 12 houses, 10, 11 planets, that's enough to be going on with, because these are all in different positions. There are 12 signs and 12, right? So there's 144 sun-moon blends. The sun in one side, the moon in all the two. 12 times 12 is 144. And that's times 12 with the ascendant. So 12 times 144, there's all those kind of combinations. Never mind where Mercury is, do you see? So there's so many combinations you can't possibly analyze them all. You just can't. You have to work poetically or in the instant. Okay, sorry. I tend to go off, but it's such a subject that still excites me.
Yes, no, I was just thinking, I remember going to Rome and hearing of the story of Romulus and Remus suckling under a she-wolf, and obviously Romulus won, being now we have Rome, and all roads apparently lead to Rome. It's kind of, we've seen all the structures of civilizations, and then we've seen things, as you were saying, about sort of discernment and purity that we see in the Virgo imagery as well, and all these other things are forming how we are now. And actually that astrology will always be relevant, in that despite the concept of mythology that some people won't resonate with, but obviously we do, there will always be the seasons of life that we will go through, you know, spring, summer, autumn, winter, but that actually goes through the solar signs as well. It's kind of, we've got all this, and there's so much more that astrology can give us.
Well, they relate, astrology essentially relates to natural patterns.
Yeah.
And we're run by patterns of development. The sun comes up in the morning over the horizon. It brings light to the world. It rises at noon. That's attainment. And then it sets in the west. That is the basic story. The sun rising and sun setting is the basic story of the hero.
Yes, the hero's journey, which we can
comes out from darkness, from the womb of darkness and somewhere. The soul rises and it tries to achieve its best at the 10th house. You see, it goes up. And then it distributes what it's learned into the world, only to then fall into the next half of life, which is death. And so the hero struggles in the nighttime where you don't see, and it's called the night sea journey of the hero. They go through it, they are transformed, and they're born again, you see. So astrology, tarot, and a lot of symbol systems are about that journey.
Yes.
Of the soul, or the hero's struggle to make meaning and purpose out of one's life. That's all connected to the sun, the hero in the horoscope.
Yes. So,
we haven't gone on to dreams yet.
No, let's get there. So, the dream analysis part of your work. So, as we've said many times, that you've beautifully integrated this within your lectures, whether it's through LSA or however people find you in your. Yeah. Oh, and to mention that you also have a book that I also own somewhere as well. Would you like to tell us the title of that?
Well, Frank Clifford is in the process of constructing a book out of what I've written. He's going to add lots of things in it. It's a collaborative work, and it's about horary astrology. I've also written a little leaflet called From Symbol to Substance.
That's the one I was thinking of. That I've got, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the dream parts that we said could be linked to Jungian psychology, and the understanding of Freud and Jung weren't alone in their dream interpretation. Mm-hmm. So would you like to talk any more about methodologies, or yes, up to you where you want to go with this. Oh yeah, because we're talking about the processing of troubling dreams and helping people sleep and heal better. Yeah, so where would you like to go with
well, these are all, for me, these are adjuncts onto astrology. You know, it's no news to you or to me that when a person's going through a Neptune transit, they start dreaming of the sea. God of the sea, see, or whether or they're going through a Pluto transit, they might, experience a descent into the unconscious. They go through a cave. There's some mysterious force inside them which is trying to find them or eat them alive or run after them. You know what I mean? Or the person might experience dark thoughts or go through a feeling where they're not themselves anymore. That life has lost its meaning. So what you get with the symbolisms of astrology, often they will come up in dreams. and the dreams are spontaneous product of your mind, of your psyche. And yes, there are different ways to interpret them, but essentially they're the nighttime activity of your soul. And they give you little dream scenarios, don't they? They give you little scenarios and films. And when you experience a dream, because it's in dream reality, rapid eye movement, if you want to be, you're seeing things going on, and those have function and they've got purpose. And if you work with the imagery, no matter how you work with it, in a Jungian way, Freudian way, or just even painting them, or in analysis, which is, all of those, you give it your you give it your interest consciously. We have plenty of dreams at night, we just don't often remember them. But if you can remember them, you're taking your inner life seriously. We dream all the time. We dream through the day. Those are called fantasies. Waking consciousness comes in, doesn't mean to say the level of unconscious activity in dreams and imagery and so on is doesn't stop. You can even do waking dreams. You can go into your imagination. You can work with them like that. But I would just say that dream work is something that anybody can access. And if they turn towards them and discuss them, write them, paint them, think about them, explore some of the psychological content of them, then they will be working with themselves. It's a way of working on themselves or with themselves. Same as astrology. What are your transits? What does this mean? You go back into it. So dreams are very important. Right? We can't go into all the functions here of dreams, but essentially they're compensatory. They tell you where you're going wrong.
Okay.
So this is not really realized. They just don't happen. They usually happen in relation to something that's occurred to you in waking life, or you've made a wrong decision, or you've made a right decision, and the dream will support it. If you've made a wrong decision, it'll tell you, if you can discern it, how that decision is slightly out of sync with your inner life. Let me give an example.
Okay.
I had a dream not so long ago of I was in a van, and I stopped to pick up this woman. She seemed in a bit of a hurry, a bit of an anxiety, and she was an enormous woman. She was very big, had excessive weight, and she got in my van, and she drove it off with me in it. She put the foot down right on the accelerator and started to go on the motorway. And I said, you're going too fast. You're going too fast. And that was the dream. Right? Now, this was some months ago. This was at the beginning of the year. Now, I've been thinking of dieting for a long time, because I have a bit of excessive weight and I don't like it. And I know what I have to do. It's just I have to discipline myself to do that. And here's this rather robust lady in a car putting the thing. You're going too fast. No, you're going too fast.
Oh yeah, I thought of that one.
Yeah.
I was just thinking like Mercury and Jupiter.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very mercurial play on words. See, it's almost the symbolism doesn't matter. Yes, this lady, and she's overweight, and she puts and so it told me it's time to do it. The lady with it was fasting the car. So she told me, no, the dream didn't tell me you've got to do this. It never tells you you've got to do this. It wasn't even that emotive. But when I got it, when I worked with it, I couldn't see it. you're going to fast. And I couldn't believe it. I said, yes, I did. And I did 70 days of OMAD, 1 meal a day. Now I'm at the stage where if dreams tell me to do something, I do it.
Yes.
Right. But that's after working with 30 years, 35, 40 years with my dreams. I have upset, right? And another time, oh, well, let's interpret this. Well, there's the lady and the car, the interpretation. No, this was an instruction. So get to it. And I can start to rely. See how magic they are?
I mean, I had one that was quite prophetic, and I was thinking, what on earth, this is a very strange dream to have. But waking up, I was thinking, actually, it's not that strange. And then throughout the day, things started happening. So my dream was that I was, for some reason, helping out a lot of people in community service. So they'd obviously committed some crimes at some point, and I was supervising them. And I gave them the bargaining chip that if they were behaving and they actually did what was asked, that they'd be able to play a game of football afterwards. And then at the end of a few months or weeks or whatever it was, they'd be able to paint a mural together. So then when I woke up, the first email I saw was from a YouTuber. I think he's Carrie Jack Hustler or something. But he was saying about how in his life, he had some shame about some crimes and things he'd committed. But actually, the community service was one of the best points of his life, because he met some amazing people, and actually they were all working together on making society better. I was thinking, yes, that's what I want, to make society that little bit better in the services I offer. And then later on in the day, I was getting towards the Muggle job. I was getting towards work, and I saw some community workers who were spraying bits of graffiti on the tiles, but it was actually to mark out where they needed to fill in the holes in the pavement. I think, that's just even more towards the dream. I'm thinking, this is all these things are making society that little bit better, but in different ways.
Yes.
Sharing experiences and actually action. I think that's just, it couldn't be more perfect.
Dreams are psychic reality, but it doesn't mean to say they don't belong in the real world. There are lots of different types of dreams. Some are prophetics, what we call mantic dreams or big dreams for the collective. I've had those. I've also had personal precognitive dreams that something is going to happen and then it does. Right. So there's a certain psychic element to dreams. There's also an important element of evolution in dreams, is that they can often precipitate or something that's going on to help you recalibrate your mind or your action in relation to something. So again, they're instructive dreams. There are the dreams of healing. Artemidorus, who was the first person to, I think, write out a dream book, 2,500 years ago, about how dreams refer to illnesses in the body and how they give you imagery. See, because the psyche works through imagery, and so it can't go, oh, you've got tonsillitis. I mean, that's the upper world, but it can point you towards it. So dreams were often connected to the outcome of illnesses or surgery or healing down at the Delphic Oracle. And a dream itself can heal you. If there are initiatory dreams which you can go into, called dream incubation. There's a lot. I think we ought to do another one on this, but to do with dreams and how dreams are special purposes. There are lucid dreams in which you can learn to wake up in your dream. It's a Tibetan technique. Tibetan, they do their meditation. They wake up in their dreams. It's as real as this. I've had lucid dreams. I can't control them so much. And then there are the psychological dreams of your repressed material, yourself, the stuff that you're denying about yourself, or you can't process all of the emotions and things you have during a day. You can't, but somebody might remind you of your mother, or you see something on a film and it clicks at the back, but you don't notice it. And then the dream goes, oh no, that was important. That memory that's been jogged off is important. And it comes back. And there is a function, that's a Freudian type, that there's something during the day which has clicked in you, you don't know, and then it jumbles together, called condensation. All these images, your mother is both 5 years old and she's your mother, and she's also dead, right? And dreams can do this. They merge time and space and realities and so on. And that's doing something for your soul, you see. And so dreams represent that. So there isn't one type of interpretation or way to work on dreams. All of these methods are important, and can be used. I tend to stick with the psychological and what Hillman says. Yes, I like interpreting dreams, but James Hillman said, don't interpret the dream. You'll condense it into a single meaning. Wait for it, work for it, see it as a reality. And if you do, the strange thing happens. It starts appearing in real life.
Yes.
People come along that you met in your dreams. It's as if the dream reality and the world of waking reality start to blend if you use symbolic imagery and work it this way. So, okay, there was a pottage history of dream work. Alfred Adler said dreams help you overcome problems. Mary Louise von Franz used to say a dream, very simple, absolutely brilliant. If anybody wants to learn how to do dreams, look at her stuff online. Mary Louise von Franz, she did this film. It's about 8 hours of her talking about dreams, and it's interesting from start to finish. It is interesting. You don't get bored. She said dreams are letters from the self or soul. Letters from the self or soul. What a beautiful way of putting it. They're messages, communications. Engage them, not necessarily through intellectual analysis. Engage them and they will speak back to you. There's a living soul, a living reality. And it took me a long time, maybe 20 years, 25 years, to realize that dreams have their own life. They stem from something inside you, and you can communicate with the unconscious, with what is inside, with your soul, with your spirit, through them. The Sufi tradition has a whole lot of initiations and things to do with dreams. An initiate in the Sufi tradition can only go on to a certain practice when something happens in a particular dream in a particular way. And until that happens, the person hasn't got it.
Wow. So is that within sort of the Tibetan monk or yoga traditions, that Sufi?
Yeah. But that's in the Sufi tradition, that they use the dream world, and when the person is ready to do another practice, the dream will say, yes, you've got this.
Okay.
See what I mean? So even there are spiritual instructions in dreams. But I just want to say one thing, that one thing. Just the one thing. What you do in the world, your conscious mind, has an effect on your dream. If you don't take any notice of them, they're still happening, but they won't inform you. If you take a wrong turn and something turns up in your dream, and it's some kind of ghost coming up from a drain hole or something and confronting you, right? Say it's that, and the person, oh yes, I had a nightmare, it was terrible. Now, thank God I'm awake. They won't see that as something coming up from an unknown element of themselves, and it's just thought of as fearful. So those kind of things are fears we haven't confronted yet, and they come in the form of animals or ghosts or people chasing you or whatever it is. And for me, that's real. The dream world is as real as this one. It's got a different way of expressing itself.
Do you think that's why people have repeated dreams then, while they keep sort of having the same nightmares? And
oh yeah,
because they haven't addressed any of it in their waking life. or try to work with it.
They might not know how to address it for a start. They might not have any idea that their fate or what they encounter in life has anything to do with them. They just think it's the outside world until they realize there are unconscious elements in their behavior, their conduct, their thinking, their attitude. It's actually creating the scenarios they think is just happening to them. We are the author of our lives in many ways. Yes, there's outside fate, there's wars, there's anything, but there's an element of which the more unconscious we are of our motives, of our past, how our past affects the future, the more we are fated. And dreams bring this up, and it's a way of working deeply with the contents of the unconscious, past and future. Jung focus said, dreams come up because it wants you to lead into the future in a different way. Deal with this, and the future will open.
Yes.
That was Jung. He was a positivist. It's called the prospective function of dreams. Why is this coming up now? Because the future awaits. Very positive.
And that's how we manifest our dreams into reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Freud was very reductionist. So he would say, well, this is a past content. This is your relationship with your mother when you were 2, and so on. And so he would work with dreams to dig up contents, let's say, and bring them into the now. But Jung was much more prospective, much more future oriented, sees it in terms of an evolutionary process, that if you dealt with them and you dealt with what they meant, then you could lead a better life in the future.
I think that's an amazing point to wrap up on, Richard. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience, and how they can find you, how they can work with you, or any future projects, etc.?
Well, because I don't have a website yet and I'm a bit slow in doing it, I will have something online. I've got my own YouTube channel if people want to look into that, Richard Swatton Astrology. But if you don't mind, if anybody has any inquiries, can they come through to you? You can give them my number and they text me. I never pick up numbers I don't know. Okay. So if they text me, then I will know they're from you, and then I can contact them.
Yes.
Is there anything I would urge people, if they're interested in any of this stuff, to become interested in some way in their own process? Now, there are some out there that think psychotherapy is looking at your own navel based. And to some degree, they are right. People can hide behind therapy and looking inward and all that, and not really do anything in the world. That's not it. It's about taking seriously something that's trying to manifest through you. And we're back to astrology. That these things are trying to manifest through you. Dame Roger called your astrological chart your celestial instructions. I rather like that.
Yes,
anyway, you got to do this. All right. There's several ways of working on yourself. Dreams is one of them. Astrology, tarot is another. Having a strong aesthetic interest in something, an intensity, working with spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, contemplation, pilgrimage, gratitude, all of those kind of things, yoga, and spiritual practices, perhaps even a religious form. Journaling is a good idea, or also involving yourself with something that means something in the world. Charity work, environmental work, something of that nature. Anything that engages the soul, and the soul is where you live. You know when your soul is engaged, when you feel emotionally engaged in something. See, you could call it the way of aesthetic intensity. When your spirit and soul has come alive in something, whether that's an external thing or an internal working of some kind.
Yes.
Maybe we'll have another one at some time and go into the dreams more, because you've just we wandered a bit more into astrology than we thought, but that's just the way it goes.
Exactly. No, I'm good with the wandering and meandering. Yes, I love it all. Thank you
But you
so
brought
much.
it down to your, you see, you've still got an order in there. There's in some sense we've come full circle.
Yes, I think we have. Thank you very much, Richard. I fully appreciate your time and your wisdom and sharing this with us.
Pleasure.
And obviously, I encourage people, if they've enjoyed this, to like, share, and if they have any questions, to drop them in the comments, and I will message them on to Richard, so that you can get an answer if you choose. And thank you again. So I will wrap up now. Thank you, Richard. I will end now. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.